My mother told me I was a mistake that ruined her life. On her 60th birthday, she asked me to pay off her mortgage. I handed her $1. "For every year you made me feel wanted," I said. The room fell silent as that single dollar bill fluttered from my hand onto the lace-covered table, landing amid the half-eaten cake and wilting flowers of my mother's 60th birthday party. Her eyes, sharp and accusatory as always, widened in shock, her perfectly manicured fingers frozen mid-reach for the envelope she thought contained her salvation. "I'm Olivia Grant, 35 now, a self-made tech entrepreneur whose apps have revolutionized personal finance for millions, but back then, in that stuffy suburban living room in Denver, I was still the little girl she'd branded a mistake. The guests, family, friends, distant relatives, my siblings gasped, whispers rippling like a stone in a pond. My brother, Ethan, 37, choked on his wine, his usually composed lawyer's facade cracking as he stared at me in disbelief. My sister, Sophia, 33, shot me a look of horrified fascination, her pediatrician's calm demeanor shattered for the first time I could remember. But I stood tall, my voice steady, the weight of 3 decades of pain finally lifting as I delivered the payback she never saw coming. The party had started like any other contrived family gathering my mother, Lorraine Grant, orchestrated to perfection. At 60, she embodied the role of the long-suffering widow with dramatic flair. Her silver hair swept into an elegant chignon that hid the gray roots she despised, a pearl necklace she'd inherited from her own mother, choking her slender neck like a symbol of the constraints she claimed life had imposed on her, and a conservative navy dress that screamed, "respectable matron," while concealing the bitterness that simmered beneath. The house, our childhood home in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood in Denver, Colorado, was a time capsule of faded glory. In the floral wallpaper in the living room, peeling ever so slightly at the corners from years of neglect. The china cabinet in the dining room proudly displaying the trophies and medals from Ethan and Sophia's achievements, and the empty wall space where my own creations, like the watercolor paintings from my high school art class, had once hung before Lorraine deemed them childish clutter and tossed them into the attic. Guests milled about the cramped space, a mix of old family friends who'd known us since diapers, distant relatives who showed up for the free food and gossip, and neighbors who Lorraine had invited to maintain her image as the gracious hostess. They chatted over platters of finger sandwiches, cucumber and cream cheese, her favorite, and bowls of punch that Sophia had spiked just enough to loosen tongues, but not enough to cause a scene. Ethan, my older brother by 2 years, was holding court near the fireplace, his firm handshake and polished smile working the room like the successful corporate lawyer he'd become. At 37, he was the epitome of the golden child. Tall, with Dad's broad shoulders and Lorraine's piercing blue eyes, married to Karen, a fellow attorney who matched his ambition with her own sharp wit and designer suits. They had 2 kids, little replicas of their perfect life, who were currently running around the backyard under the watchful eye of a babysitter. Ethan regaled a group of uncles with tales of his latest high-profile case, a merger that had made headlines in the Denver Post, his laughter booming in that way that always made people feel included, even if it was calculated. Sophia, the baby of the family at 33, flitted from guest to guest like a hummingbird, refilling glasses and offering hugs with her warm, genuine smile that could melt even the coldest heart. As a pediatrician at a local children's hospital, she had that nurturing aura. Her curly brown hair tied back in a practical ponytail, her engagement ring from her fiancé, Mark, a kind-hearted teacher, glinting under the chandelier lights. She was Lorraine's mirror in many ways, always the one to smooth over conflicts, to remember birthdays and send thank you notes, but beneath it, I knew she carried the weight of being the good daughter, the one who never strayed from the path laid out for her. I arrived fashionably late, my sleek black SUV pulling up to the curb with a quiet hum that contrasted the noisy chatter spilling from the open windows. Dressed in a tailored black pantsuit that hugged my figure, custom made by a designer in San Francisco, costing more than Lorraine's monthly mortgage payment, my long dark hair falling in loose waves down my back, I carried a small, unassuming gift bag that hid the storm brewing inside. As I stepped through the front door, the familiar scent of Lorraine's rose perfume mixed with the aroma of baked goods hit me like a wave, triggering a cascade of memories, some warm, like Dad's hugs after a bad day, but most cold, like the endless criticisms that had shaped my childhood. Lorraine spotted me immediately from across the room, her smile tightening at the corners, a telltale sign of her disapproval of my city look. "Olivia, you made it after all," she said, air kissing my cheek with the enthusiasm of someone handling a fragile antique. "Traffic from San Francisco must have been dreadful." "Something like that," I replied, my tone even as I scanned the room, noting the curious glances from guests who hadn't seen me in years. Whispers followed. "That's the middle one, the tech whiz. Heard she's loaded now." The afternoon dragged on with the usual rituals. Small talk about the weather, unseasonably warm for June, compliments on the cake, store-bought but decorated to look homemade, and Lorraine basking in the spotlight as guests toasted her milestone birthday with glasses of cheap champagne. She loved these events, using them to reinforce her narrative as the devoted mother who'd sacrificed everything for her family, conveniently glossing over the parts where those sacrifices felt more like burdens she resented. As the cake was cut, chocolate with raspberry filling, her favorite, the toasts began in earnest. Ethan went first, his voice steady and eloquent. "To Mom, the woman who taught us resilience and hard work. You've been our guiding light," Sophia followed, her words soft and emotional. "Mom, you're the heart of our family. We love you more than words can say." When eyes turned to me, I raised my glass with a small smile. "To new beginnings," I said simply, the ambiguity lost on most, but not on Lorraine, whose eyes narrowed slightly. It was after the gifts had been opened, an assortment of perfumes, scarves, a spa voucher from Sophia, and a set of kitchen gadgets from Ethan, that Lorraine pulled me aside into the kitchen, away from the prying eyes and ears of the guests. The room was cluttered with dirty dishes and half-empty platters, the fluorescent light casting harsh shadows on her face. Her voice dropped to that familiar whine, the one she used when she wanted something but didn't want to beg outright. "Olivia, darling, I hate to even bring this up on my special day, but you know how things have been since your father passed? The house, it's become such a burden. The mortgage is crushing me, $150,000 left, and with my pension, I can barely keep up. You're doing so well now with your little company. Could you help? Pay it off? It would mean the world to me, to have one less worry at my age." I paused, letting her words hang in the air like smoke from an extinguished candle. This was the moment I'd anticipated, rehearsed in my mind during countless sleepless nights, the culmination of years of built-up resentment. My heart raced, but my exterior remained calm, a skill honed from years in boardrooms negotiating multi-million-dollar deals. Reaching into my gift bag, I pulled out the crisp dollar bill, holding it between my fingers like a talisman. "Here," I said, placing it gently into her outstretched palm. "This is for every year you made me feel wanted." Her face transformed in slow motion, from hopeful expectation to puzzled confusion, then to dawning realization, and finally to unbridled rage. "What is this?" she hissed, her voice low but venomous, crumpling the bill in her fist. $1? Is this some kind of joke, Olivia? After everything I've done for you?" The kitchen door creaked open at that moment, Ethan poking his head in, his brow furrowed in concern. "Everything okay in here?" We heard raised voices. Sophia followed close behind, her engagement ring catching the light as she wrung her hands. "Mom? Liv? What's going on?" Lorraine's eyes blazed as she turned to them, her voice rising to a pitch that drew more guests to the doorway. Your sister is being cruel, that's what. She thinks she can mock me with $1 when I ask for help. After I raised her, sacrificed my dreams for her. I crossed my arms, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Raised me? You mean tolerated me, Lorraine. You called me a mistake from the day I could understand words. You said I ruined your life. Well, this $1 is all the help you deserve from me, the value you placed on my existence. The guests murmured, shock rippling through the room like an electric current. Family friend Mrs. Hargrove, a nosy neighbor who'd known us for decades, clutched her pearls. Uncle Ted, Dad's brother, shifted uncomfortably, his beer halfway to his lips. Ethan stepped forward, his lawyer instincts kicking in. Liv, come on, this isn't the time. Mom's under a lot of stress, the house payments, her health. Sophia nodded, her eyes pleading. Yeah, Olivia, let's talk privately. This is her birthday. But I wasn't done. The years of suppressed anger bubbled up, words spilling out like a dam breaking. Stress? Try living with a mother who reminded you daily that you were unwanted, who favored your siblings with praise and opportunities while I got scraps. This isn't just about $1, it's about justice. Lorraine's face twisted, tears streaming now, but I recognized the performance. She'd used it before to garner sympathy. You ungrateful child, I gave you everything. A roof, food, education, and this is how you repay me? The argument escalated. Voices overlapping in a cacophony that drew everyone into the kitchen, the party forgotten. It was then that Abuela Rosa, Lorraine's mother at 82, hobbled in on her cane, her frail frame belying the fire in her eyes. Abuela had always been the quiet observer in our family, living in the guest room since Grandpa died, her Mexican heritage infusing our home with stories of resilience and tamales on holidays. Enough! She commanded, her voice cutting through the noise like a knife. Lorraine, it's time. Tell her the truth. Lorraine paled, her hands shaking. Mama, no. Not now. Abuela fixed her with a stern gaze. Yes, now. Olivia deserves to know why you've treated her this way all these years. The room held its breath, the tension thick enough to choke on. I turned to Abuela, my heart pounding. What truth? What are you talking about? Abuela sighed, her eyes soft with regret as she looked at me. Mija, you're not a mistake. Your mother, she had an affair. Harold wasn't your biological father. The world tilted on its axis, the kitchen spinning as gasps echoed around me. Ethan's wineglass slipped from his hand, shattering on the tile floor. Sophia covered her mouth, eyes wide. Lorraine slumped against the counter, sobbing openly now. It's true, she whispered. I was young, unhappy in my marriage. I met someone, a free-spirited artist. It was brief, but you were the result. Harold forgave me, raised you as his own. But every time I looked at you, with your creativity, your independence, you reminded me of him, of my guilt, my lost dreams. I pushed you away to forget. I staggered back, the revelation hitting like a freight train. All those years of feeling like an outsider, the favoritism, the cruel words, it wasn't just resentment, it was a cover for her shame. Dad knew? I asked, voice barely above a whisper. Abuela nodded. He did. And he loved you fiercely, Olivia. You were his daughter in every way that mattered. Ethan and Sophia turned to Lorraine, their faces a mix of shock and betrayal. Mom, how could you keep this from us? Ethan demanded, his voice cracking for the first time. Sophia, tears streaming, looked at me. Liv, I had no idea. The party dissolved into chaos, guests excusing themselves awkwardly, relatives whispering in corners, the air thick with unspoken questions. I left that night. Ryan, my husband, who'd been waiting in the car, sensing the drama, drove us back to San Francisco in silence as I processed the bombshell. But the story was far from over. This revelation was just the first thread unraveling a tapestry of secrets that would lead to more twists, deeper wounds, and ultimately, my path to healing and triumph. The kitchen confrontation at Lorraine's 60th birthday party was only the beginning, a spark that ignited a wildfire of revelations that would reshape my world. In the weeks that followed, I couldn't shake Abuela Rosa's words about my true origins. Driven by a need for answers, I hired a private investigator, a discreet professional recommended by Ryan, to track down the man who'd unknowingly fathered me. His name was Alejandro Rivera, a 62-year-old artist whose vibrant paintings adorned galleries across Manhattan. The PI's report painted a vivid picture. Alejandro was a Mexican-American painter who'd built a multi-million-dollar career, his abstracts celebrated for their emotional depth. Married with 2 grown children, he lived a life of quiet success, unaware of the daughter born from a fleeting affair with Lorraine 35 years ago at a Denver art gallery opening. Heart-pounding, I reached out via a carefully worded email, attaching a photo of myself and a brief explanation. His response came within hours, his words trembling with shock and hope. "Is this possible? A daughter?" We arranged a Zoom call, and when his face appeared, lined with age but with eyes that mirrored my own, dark and expressive, I knew the truth before the DNA test confirmed it. "Olivia," he said, tears streaming down his weathered cheeks, "I have a daughter." We met in New York a month later, in a sunlit cafe near his studio. His embrace was warm, his stories of a life spent chasing art and meaning echoing my own journey. "You have my eyes, my talent," he said, showing me his latest canvas, a swirl of colors that felt like home. Lorraine's reaction was volcanic when I told her. "You stole my secret!" She screamed over the phone, her voice raw with fury and shame. That was mine to keep. But Ethan and Sophia, reeling from the truth, reacted differently. Ethan, his lawyer's composure crumbling, was angry, not at me, but at Lorraine for the deception that had fractured our family. "How could she lie to us all?" he demanded during a tense call. Sophia, ever empathetic, reached out with tears in her voice. "Liv, I didn't know. I'm so sorry you carried this alone." Then came the second bombshell, uncovered by the PI's relentless digging. Dad's will contained a hidden clause. Harold, knowing I wasn't his biologically, had set aside a separate trust, $500,000, with a note, "For my beloved Olivia, to chase her dreams." Lorraine had concealed it, siphoning the funds for herself to cover debts and maintain her facade of stability. When I confronted her at a family meeting in our old Denver living room, her face crumpled. "I was afraid you'd leave us," she confessed, voice breaking. "The money, I needed it to keep the house, to keep up appearances." Legal action followed swiftly. With Ethan's help, I recovered the funds, plus interest, but the betrayal cut deeper than any financial loss. The family fractured under the weight of these truths. Lorraine retreated into silence, her pride wounded. But over months, she sought therapy, her apologies slowly shifting from defensive to sincere. "I was broken, Olivia," she admitted during a quiet coffee meeting, her hands trembling around her cup. "I projected my failures onto you." Ethan and Sophia allied with me, our sibling bond strengthening as we navigated the pain together, sharing stories of Dad's quiet love that had held us together. Alejandro became a new anchor, inviting me into his world, art collaborations, family dinners with his wife and children, who embraced me as their own. "You're a gift," his wife, Maria, said, her warmth a stark contrast to Lorraine's coldness. My life soared. At 36, Grant Innovations went public, my net worth skyrocketing into the billions. Ava and Theo, my children, filled our San Francisco home with laughter. Ryan, my unwavering partner through every triumph. Lorraine, now living modestly, joined us for cautious holiday visits, her demeanor softened by therapy and time. The dollar bill from that fateful day sits framed in my office, a reminder of the pain I overcame and the strength I forged. In the quiet moments, watching my children play under the golden California sun, I reflect on the journey from mistake to masterpiece. The scars remain, but they're woven into a tapestry of resilience, love, and truth. If you've ever felt unwanted, know this: your story is yours to shape. From the ashes of rejection, you can build a life that shines brighter than any apology, a legacy that echoes beyond the pain. Rewrite your ending with courage. It's the greatest payback of all.